tunnel-like confines of the alleyway echo back every noise. The heavy sound of approaching footsteps hammering against the cobblestone road begins to speed up like the excited heartbeat of a predator experiencing the thrill of the chase. I shake the thought from my mind and turn to look at Farah, who's staring down the alleyway where I'd just been looking. You're going to have to leave. Farah's head flicks around to face me so quickly that I flinch. What? Trust me, of all people to stumble on this scene, we don't want it to be this one. I reply, my worried focus flashing back to the shadow. I can't see a figure yet, but the beat of footsteps makes me anxious enough. Take the supernatural and head back to the facility. Bra frowns. But what about you? Hmm. Shifting to focus fully on Farah once again, I give a wink. Got this. I think you've got a lot of things, Detective, she replies. Just hope you know you don't have to have them alone. My joking subsides at the care in her tone. But you do you, she says, lightness returning to her voice. I better get going. She bends down to scoop up the supernatural as though the creature weighs little more than a discarded towel. She holds them over one shoulder, makes to take off, and then pauses. She turns to look over her other shoulder at me. Do I at least get a goodbye kiss? What? For a second, I almost think I misheard her. Then, at that moment, the supernatural spews more white froth in a streaming line all the way down the back of Farah's waistcoat. The vampire grimaces and shrugs, the supernatural groaning as they're jostled with the gesture. Maybe another time. Then she speeds off into the night in a blur of motion so fast it blends with the darkness. The only thing left is my chuckle, which permeates the air until the sound of footsteps rings out loudly at my side. Turning back to face the alleyway, the figure I'd hoped not to see steps into my view. Lamplight dribbles down through the leaves above and coats us in a false orange light, casting strong shadows across her face that look very much like a mask. She draws to a stop and a lopsided smirk cracks through the dark mask. Just the person I was looking for. Bobby, I greet her tersely while folding my arms. But her attention isn't on me. Her heavy-lidded eyes have swung around to the spot beside me where Farah had been minutes before. A slight headache begins to throb at the back of my skull as I do my best to pretend not to notice where she is looking. I guess it was a vain hope that she wouldn't have seen them at all. Was that one of your new colleagues? Bobby asks, the words falling like drops of smooth honey over her lips. Wonder why they were hanging around town at this time in the evening? My fingers tighten a little. There's something you need? Her eyes shift back to meet mine. You're this town's detective, Detective Langford. You're at the center of it all. I wait for her to continue, which she does with barely any pause. I was actually on my way to the station to find you, she says, gesturing over her shoulder in the opposite direction. How fortunate to find you here where we can talk so freely. Go on. I lift the brow unmoving with my arms tightly folded across my chest. She doesn't even seem to notice I haven't said anything before opening her mouth to continue, apparently still loving the sound of her own voice. Leaving me in anticipation of a reply? She asks. It's a sound that aggravates my headache. I massage my still aching temples. So, what is it? I was coming to get the official statement on a sickness that's been spreading through town, she says. Every inch of Bobby's focus falls on me as those words are spoken, each minute detail of my reaction taken in like a spider monitoring the movements of a fly caught in its web. My mouth opens to ask what she's talking about, but logic quickly overrides my initial response. Bobby looks too eager, too intent on my first reaction, almost like she expects me to be confused and clueless. Well, she prompts, barely breathing as she waits for my reply. You're the only detective here, so surely you know what's happening in your own town. The racing in my mind suddenly slows down enough for me to make the connection that has been flashing like a neon sign for the past few seconds. The supernatural we'd just seen, the illness they'd been suffering, could that be part of it? Are humans getting it too? I half forgot Bobby is even there as I try to puzzle it all together. I have to go. My words trail from my mouth, but I barely realize I'm speaking them. As I make to walk past Bobby, she immediately steps into my path to stop me. Concern softens the sharpness of her eyes, and a frown pulls at her mouth. Is there something wrong, Detective? she asks in a low tone. Her voice is as gentle as the waft of honeysuckle that suddenly washes over us from the bushes clambering over the walls nearby. Why would there be? She doesn't move, only leaning closer, then she drops her gaze once more to where Farah had previously stood. Thankfully, it seems Bobby hadn't seen the sick supernatural at all. That's one small mercy, at least. Because I know there's something going on, she eventually replies. If you're scared to talk, then open up to me. Her hands move outwards, seeming to want to trap me in place. You don't know me well enough to realize how much I can help if you just tell me what's going on. Hmm. Try to just keep walking. Um. Hmm. You know what? Sure. With a half sneer on my face, I move past her and just keep on walking. Bobby doesn't manage to step back in my path. Are you really just going to ignore this? There's nothing to ignore. I say, my voice hard but my words dismissive. The following silence lets me know I've won the argument, so I allow myself a small smile of triumph. Maybe you should stop ignoring me and we could catch up outside of work sometime, Detective Langford? She calls as I move away. Really get to know each other? I don't see why we would. An hour later, at the facility just outside of the big city. It's a simple process to get into the facility with my keycard. I'm greeted by a human guard at the entrance, and once I'm inside, she turns the handle on the door. It's similar to a vault door, being just as massive and thick enough that I reckon it could withstand pretty much anything thrown at it. The guard nods at me, so we make our way inside. As we go, I notice a flash of chainmail just visible beneath the stiff upright collar of her uniform. It's a good form of protection, if somewhat outdated, though it must work for whatever they go up against. I suddenly wonder what exactly the agents are protecting themselves from when they wear it. The clinical odor isn't as strong as it was when I first woke up here all those months ago. Apparently, it's easy to get accustomed to it, along with all the non human agents who wander past us as we move further into the maze of bland tubular concrete hallways. Once I'm beyond what I figure passes for the foyer, the guard gives another brisk nod and lets me go on my way. I head towards the medical wing, my footsteps echoing behind me like a strange audible shadow. The medical wing looks just the same as any other wing in the facility. The inside of the medical rooms, which I can see through large panes of glass embedded in the walls, are painted a bright white. A figure stands, tense, not far from me. She's staring into one of the medical rooms with an uncertain frown. Rebecca turns to me as I approach, the tension washing away in favor of a neutral mask. Jules. I draw to a stop beside her. Ra tells me you encountered an issue after finding the supernatural. Is everything handled? Just give a nod. It seems to be all Rebecca needs as she simply says, Good. She seems far more concerned with the present issues as she doesn't ask further, either apparently trusting that it's handled or choosing to deal with it later. Both possibilities make me shift on the spot. Before we get a chance to talk further, a loud voice bounces off the walls and lands over us with the cheerful feel of confetti. Jules! Farah calls, making me spin around instantly to see the beaming smile on her face. You finally made it! Trailing behind the most gleeful member of Unit Bravo is the rest of the team. I barely notice the rest of them, though my focus is captured only by Farah, who seems to be struggling just as much with breaking our held gaze. Eventually, we both manage to look away. She continues trying to hide her smile, unsuccessfully. So, what's going on then? Farah asks, leaning forward to almost press her nose against the glass viewing pane of the medical room. I turn to look as well. A spread of supernatural creatures of all forms are laid out in hospital beds. Most are unmoving, and all are affected by the same murky disease we'd seen on the one who had asked for our help earlier. A selection of machines has been set up near them, which beep and flash away to themselves, but I also notice swirls of smoke and faint glimmers across the room, apparently produced by the incense and strange-looking items laid out at the head of the room on what looks to be an altar. We aren't sure, Rebecca says, as straight-faced and logical as ever. But it's not limited to supernaturals. She gestures behind us, where another window lets us see into the room beyond. Fewer patients are in this room, but one huge difference is that they're all human, as far as I can tell. So humans are contracting it also? Ava asks, almost as unemotional as Rebecca about the situation. Yes, she says. We've done our best to bring them all down here to keep it hidden, but apparently some have checked into the local hospital. I stare into the room in sudden realization. The hospital must be how Bobby found out before us. The woman really does have sources everywhere. It came about faster than we had a chance to realize it was becoming a growing situation. Rebecca continues, swiping her jacket back to place her hands on her hips as she looks over the group. Farah takes a wide step back from the window and rubs her hands down the sides of her skinny jeans. We're not going to get it, are we? No, Rebecca replies. I've been told it's something more likely being inflicted on individuals rather than a contagion. It's probably originating from one source, a supernatural source. That's how it's managed to spread to so many people so quickly? Nat asks. She steps into the space where Farah had been standing and stares into the room with concern tugging at the corners of her lips. Most supernaturals have some form of healing ability, Rebecca says, mostly to me. I assume as the others are likely already aware. Not all at the level of a vampire's, but it's a surprise to us all that this illness is affecting so many. Nat turns to look at her. And they're not healing? She shakes her head. Unit Bravo are being assigned to find a source, but we're still unsure about this and urge you to be careful. Her gaze falls heavily over each of us in turn as she ends her statement. This town certainly isn't as boring as I feared it would be, Farah says with the hint of a smile. You mean as you hoped it would be? Nat corrects. Farah shrugs. Sure, you go with that. Nat sighs, rubbing a hand over her face. The vampires all suddenly turn to look down the corridor. I follow suit, seeing nothing for a while until someone emerges from around the corner. Someone I recognize. Elidor, the towering, solid-muscled Fey nurse who helped me recover after the fight with Murphy, strides towards us. His head is bowed as he looks over a file in his hand. His long, straight blue hair glimmers even beneath the harsh glow of the force lights. Its locks undulate over the powerful shoulders, and muscles evident beneath the grey scrubs he wears, though his body is as relaxed as his expression. When he does look up and sees us, he ignores Unit Bravo in favor of me. Oh god. I remember Elidor. I do not at all remember the type of voice I gave him. Like, not even at all. Um, hmm. Sure. I offer a smile at him as he approaches, and he does the same in response. I'll just give him a super deep voice. It's been a while, he says. I'm glad to see you looking so well. I actually didn't think you would return. And I just couldn't keep away, Farah says, curling an arm around me and giving me a squeeze. Who wouldn't love us enough to come back? I find it difficult to believe anyone would be as enamored by you as you yourself, Elidor replies, getting a snort of laughter from Nat, who tries to cover it with a cough. Badly. Farah holds a scolding finger up at the nurse. If I knew what enamored meant, I might take offense to that. What does it mean? She turns to look at Nat. Oh, Nat frowns for a moment, running her finger down the bridge of her nose. Kaido Sholi? What? What does that mean? I lean back, not recognizing the language or even anything familiar to it. In which case, I'm not offended as it's completely true. Farah grins. Elidor simply sighs. There's a sudden bleeping from inside the room next to us, and Elidor tenses. I should see to that, he says, already moving towards the door. But it was good to see you again. I offer a wave of goodbye, but he's already disappeared into the room. The corridor falls into a heavy silence, and all of us watch through the glass as Elidor offers a gasping supernatural a drink of water. What are you thinking? Nat asks, not even having to glance at Ava for the team leader to know she's the one Nat is addressing. Ava runs her hand over her hair, which is pulled back into its usual tight bun. We don't have enough details to make a real assessment yet. Then, in a move so surprising I almost flinch, Ava looks towards me as though waiting for my opinion on the situation. It's all kind of ooh. Sure. I agree, I say, nodding towards Ava. We don't have enough information yet. We'll need to proceed with any plan carefully. Careful is good, Nat replies, but being too cautious could cause further harm if we don't hurry. Ava places a hand on Nat's shoulder. It's all right, Nat. We'll ensure we help as many as possible. That factor is not diminished by our need for caution. Well, hopefully not, anyway, Farah adds. It would still be wisest to find out what we can before proceeding with any plan, Ava replies. Then she looks at me again. We'll find what we can. If there's anything more, meet with you tomorrow to discuss further actions. That's it? I ask. You just expect me to sit around and wait for you guys to come up with something? Ava bristles at the question. Yes. There is little else any of us can do, Rebecca intervenes. The patients can't be questioned. We have no idea where the source is, and it's much more important for you to keep the town calm by ensuring they see you are at the station. We're only gathering information for now. I take a long breath. The minute we know something, you'll be informed, Ava adds, giving a definite nod along with the words. Eventually, I nod in return. It's not like I don't have things to get sorted for the town with my actual job anyway. The team then give their goodbyes, Farah offering a very bright smile before leaving and heading off down the corridor. My feet stay planted in place for a moment longer, and my attention is drawn back through the glass as I stare into the medical room. I barely notice that Nat has remained to stand by my side. The woman is exceptionally quiet and subtle when she wants to be. Are you concerned? She asks. Her low voice matches the heaviness of the atmosphere inside the medical room beyond the glass. No, I know we can figure this out. Nat smiles. I'm glad you have such faith in us and in yourself. Well, let's just hope that faith pays off, or we find out something that will give us an actual lead on all of this. Yes, that's something we can all hope for, Nat replies, turning her concerned gaze once more on the patients. I should get back to the station, I say. Nat nods. And I best get to the team before anything untoward happens. She offers a farewell smile, then heads off down the corridor. With a final glance over the medical room, I also head out, making my way through the facility. As I weave through the corridors, doing my best to remember the way out, I hear a quiet grunting from nearby. I peer down the nearby hallway and see a petite woman carrying a large wooden crate. Considering she's only about the height of my knee and weighed down in heavy coat of fur and leather besides, it's not surprising she's struggling, but she stumbles on down the corridor anyway, almost about to walk into a closed door. Yeah, we'll move to intervene before anything happens. Without saying a word, I rush forwards to make a barrier between her and the door, putting my hand on the box, which wobbles in her arms. She comes to an abrupt halt as I stand before her, so she peers around the box to see what stopped her movement. The woman's skin is the color of a bright winter sky, with her cheeks and nose flushed pink. Her lips are a pale icy blue that matches the color of her eyes. She has no pupils, and the blue color spreads all the way over the eye, something I'm coming to realize is a common trait for many supernatural races. Can I help you? She asks in a soft voice, obviously straining under the weight of the box. She shifts it in her arms. Actually, I was thinking to help you, I reply, taking my hand off the box now she's stopped and then gesturing behind me. You're about to crash into the doorframe. She shifts slightly and looks around the box again, sees I'm right, and offers me an awkward smile. Her black hair, sectioned into three braids, swings around the delicate heart shape of her face. Ah, thank you so much for the warning. Then she frowns at me before her eyes widen. You're human. Hmm. Yep. I instantly drop my gaze down to look over my body, frantically patting at myself with my hands as I gasp loudly. Oh no, you're right. I am human. When I glance up, she is merely staring at me with a worried frown. You were unaware? She asks, sounding almost guilty in her tone. No, no, I reply, waving my hands a little. It was a joke, just fun. She continues to stare at me with a blank expression. You know what? Never mind. Yes, I am human. But be human, she continues, shifting the large box further into her grasp. The human member of Unit Bravo? I nod. Indeed, I'm definitely that human. She tilts her to the side slightly. Rumors have been many about you. About me? I'm not sure whether to be flattered or concerned. As this seems to be turning into an actual conversation, she places the box down and leans against it. I am Tapeesa, one of the Ishkak. This is your form of greeting? She asks while holding out a delicate hand towards me. The thick sleeve of her coat hangs around her slim wrist, and geometric designs travel all the way around the fur-edged hem. A grey agency uniform is just visible through the buttons of the jacket. I take her hand to shake it. Two of my fingers barely fit into her palm. I'm Jules. After standing back up, I have to ask the question still swimming in my mind. So, what are these rumors? She smiles, the air around her seeming to shimmer slightly as she does like heat stemming from a road in midsummer. The ones above us, the ones in charge, say you have the skills of the people, that they wish full agent out of you. The surprising information makes me balk a little. The ones of our level, our colleagues, say. She frowns in thought, the thin lines of dark blue which make up her eyebrows pinching together. They say the human is a special little snowflake. I cannot say I truly know the meaning of these words, though. Oh, I see. I clear my throat. They do not favor you as you hoped, she says rather than asks. I don't know what I hoped, I reply, doing my best to let this information roll off of me. Tapeesa turns to begin lifting the box once again. I should be on my way. This meeting was nicer than was expected. A groan escapes her as she fits to lift the crate, her knees shaking beneath her grey trousers. I mean, we'll offer her. I watch for a moment longer before speaking. Do you need any help? She glances at me, her brow knotted with strain. If you wouldn't mind, human, I mean. Her lips pout as though to form sounds she's not used to. Jules. With a smile, I lean down and take the box from her. You're very welcome, Tapeesa. She smiles in return, then the two of us head off down the corridor together as she shows me where to go. There is something I have been most curious about the world above, Tapeesa says after a moment. Oh? She clasps her small hands together. There is an item craved by many humans down here that I have yet to see. It must be very good to be so coveted. I look down towards her, shifting the box in my grasp as the edges dig into my fingers. What's it called? I believe it is titled Chocolate. A chuckle escapes me. Next chapter.